office is also on the line with us today. She'll be helping with technology and with the question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Today we're going to be providing information about various funding options available through the SBA, including programs that were established with the CARES Act. If you have questions during the presentation, we ask that you type them into the chat box and we'll answer them at the end of the session. During the question and answer period, you'll also have the opportunity to raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask your question verbally. During our presentation, we do ask that you keep your cameras turned off and your microphones muted to help cut down on background noise and other distractions. So at this point, I'm going to turn the webinar over to Cindy to get us started.
Good morning. We'll get started here with small business economic relief. And the following are tools that were made available in response to the coronavirus pandemic. The CARES Act established the Paycheck Protection Program and other SBA debt relief options. In addition, SBA-based programs were expanded. These expanded programs include the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, referred to as EIDL, traditional SBA-backed lending, such as the Express Bridge Loan, and the one-on-one no-cost business advising and funding through SBA resource partners, who will be named in a later slide. Next slide, please. Here we'll talk about the EIDL program. The EIDL loans are direct loans from the federal government. And this loan provides economic relief to small businesses and nonprofit organizations that are currently experience a temporary loss of revenue. And the EIDL program has existed for many years and has historically been used to help businesses and communities after natural disasters such as tornadoes, flooding, and hurricanes. This is the first time it's been used nationally and for a pandemic. And some key points, as of June 15th, the EIDL was reopened to all eligible businesses, nonprofits, and qualified agricultural businesses. Submitted applications continue to be processed on a first-come, first-served basis. EIDL loans are low-interest long-term loans with payments deferred for 1 year. And these loans are to be used for working capital for day-to-day business expenses. And I'll share some statistics with you on the EIDL program. Nationally, as of August 24th, over 3.5 million EIDL loans have been approved for a total of $188 billion. And in Wisconsin, over 36,600 loans have been approved for over $1.8 billion. And if you need more information on the EIDL, you can go to the SBA.gov homepage, and you can click on the Learn More red square over on the left side of the homepage. Next slide, please. And here we'll go over EIDL information if you've already applied. The SBA's Office of Disaster Assistance, known as the ODA, is processing applications as quickly as possible, and they've hired additional staff to meet the demand. And remember that EIDLs are being processed on a first-come, first-served basis. If you receive notice your application was submitted successfully, the loan is being processed. It is important to keep your application number for future communications. So please write that down and keep that in a safe place for any communication you have with the Office of Disaster Assistance. And an initial declination doesn't necessarily mean no. It may mean that additional information is needed. You may resubmit for reconsideration of your EIDL loan, and you'll need to refer to your denial letter for more information. And to check for loan status updates, contact the SBA's Office of Disaster Assistance at the phone number or email provided here. And just a reminder that the SBA field offices do not have access to EIDL applications. Next slide, please. In this slide, we'll go over the EIDL application process review. We get a lot of questions about this, so here is kind of a step-by-step layout of the application process. First, the application is received, credit is pulled, and bank account information or bank account provided is verified. Next, an email is sent requesting applicant access the ODA secured portal to set up an account. An email is then sent with a suggested loan amount, allowing the applicant to accept, request less, or reject the amount. At this point, the loan is not yet approved. Once the applicant accepts, requests less, or rejects the amount, the loan officer reviews this and makes a decision on whether economic injury has occurred. If approved, the loan officer contacts the applicant with an approved amount, and if the applicant agrees, the application moves to legal. Legal then creates loan closing documents, and the funds are obligated from Treasury. The applicant is asked to sign the closing documents electronically, and once signed, loan funds are deposited in the account. And depending on the size of the loan, the deposit could be done in one or more than one transaction. Next slide. And here is an overview of the Paycheck Protection Program, also known as PPP. The PPP is a loan designed to provide a direct incentive for small businesses to keep their workers on the payroll. And the following are some national statistics from this program. $659 billion was provided in the CARES Act signed into law on March 27th. And over 5.2 million loans have been processed for over $525 billion. And the PPP has supported about 51 million jobs and more than 80% of small business payroll. And the SBA processed more than 14 years worth of loans in less than 14 days. The overall average loan size is $101,000. And there is close to $134 billion remaining in the fund, and further programming is pending legislation. In Wisconsin alone, over 89,000 small businesses and organizations have been approved for over $9.9 billion. And as of August 8th, 2020, the PPP closed to new loan applications. Next slide, please. And here are some items to note from the Paycheck Protection Program. Borrowers now only have to use 60% of the loan proceeds for payroll costs for forgiveness. If a borrower uses less than 60% for payroll costs, the borrower will continue to be eligible, but on a partial loan forgiveness basis. And the covered period is 24 weeks from loan disbursement or December 31st, 2020, whichever is earlier. And for loans prior to June 5th, borrowers can elect an 8-week covered period or a 24-week covered period. Any PPP loan after June 5th now has a 5-year term. Any term changes for loans made prior to June 5th will have to be agreed to between the borrower and the lender. There are additional safe harbors from a reduction in loan forgiveness. For example, the inability to return to previous business levels or to rehire or find new qualified employees. And then one final but important item to note is that the borrower has 10 months from the end of the cover period to submit forgiveness documentation to the lender. If the borrower does not ask for forgiveness within that 10-month period, principal and interest payments will start 10 months from the eligible date of forgiveness. And the one final note is that there are 2 different PPP loan forgiveness applications available to choose from, either the easy form or the regular longer form. Now I'll turn it over to Lisa, who will continue to talk about the PPP forgiveness program and other items.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm going to go ahead and finish up with the PPP program, talking about the forgiveness process and just providing a general overview of the steps to take when you're applying for the forgiveness portion of this program. So step one is that you're really going to determine which covered period to use. So again, as Cindy mentioned, if your PPP loan was approved prior to June 5th, you have a choice to make. You can use either the 8-week covered period or the 24-week covered period, and that's the time period over which to use your PPP funds. Now, if your loan was approved on or after June 5th, you're automatically going to have that 24-week covered period. So if you have that choice to make, if you can choose either the 8-week or the 24-week period, it could make sense to utilize that longer 24-week period if you need additional time in order to regain your original employee headcount. And when it comes to the forgiveness process, they are talking about your FTEs, which is your full-time equivalent counts. You may also need additional time if you need time to achieve that 60-40 usage of funds, where at least 60% of the funds are used for payroll purposes and no more than 40% of the funds are used for non-payroll purposes. So step 2 is to choose the correct PPP forgiveness application form. And again, as Cindy mentioned, there are now 2 forms. We have the easy form, which is just a little bit shorter, fewer calculations, just less time to complete. And then we have our standard longer form, which is the form 3508. Now, both forms come with very detailed instructions. And I would suggest reading through those instructions because it's going to take you really step by step through the application form and how to fill it out. Now, with the EZ form, those instructions on page 1 are going to lay out specifically who can use the EZ form. And essentially you need to fit into at least one of 3 categories. Now, the first category is probably the most straightforward, and it is that you're a sole proprietor or an independent contractor and you have no employees. And when you originally applied for your PPP loan, you had no employees at that time, so you didn't include any employee salaries or wages into your original application other than your own salary or wages. Category number 2 is that you do have employees, but you have not had to reduce wages for any employee by more than 25%. And you have not had to reduce your FTE count, your full-time equivalent count, and average number of paid hours. Now, under this category number 2, there is a safe harbor rule that can kick in. And again, this is going to be detailed on the instruction pages of the EZ form. But essentially, if you had to lay off employees and for some reason not all of them came back, even though you're offering the same number of hours and same salary, you may fit into a safe harbor with that situation. You just need to document that. So again, that's all going to be laid out in the instruction pages. Category number 3 is that, again, you are an employer. You did not have to reduce any employee wages by more than 25%. And you are unable to operate at previous business levels going back to the beginning of this year due to requirements that have to do with employee safety or customer safety that came down from Health and Human Services, from the Centers for Disease Control, or from OSHA. So if you have a retail location and perhaps you're being told that you cannot operate at any more than a 50% capacity level, that would be something that would fit into this category number 3. So again, as long as you're fitting into at least one of those 3 categories, you are eligible to fill out that EZ form. Now, the application forms and the instructions are given to you from your lender or by your lender, so make sure you contact them to obtain the forms. To see a sample of these forms, you can go to the SBA website at sba.gov/PPP. And step number 3 is that you're going to go ahead and submit your forgiveness application along with the required documentation to your lender. So let's talk about the deadline to do that. You have 10 months from the end of your 8-week or 24-week covered period to submit that documentation to your lender. If for some reason you're not asking for forgiveness under this program, or you don't get your application submitted by the end of that 10-month period, you will need to start making payments on your PPP loan. One thing to be aware of is that interest will accrue during this time for any amount that is ultimately not forgiven and that you have to pay back. Page 2 of the forgiveness application is a certification and representation page, and I bring that up simply because it's easy to overlook. There's no calculations on it, but it does need to be signed, and you have to make sure that you're making the certifications that are required. Now, there's a list of documents required to be submitted with your forgiveness application, and those documents are listed in the instruction page. So you want to make sure that you have that documentation together and you're submitting it to your lender along with your forgiveness application. And in the instructions, there's also a separate list of documents that need to be maintained. So you don't need to submit any of those documents to your lender, but you do need to keep them on file for at least 6 years after the date that your loan is either forgiven or repaid. So the SBA has put some other debt relief measures in place that have to do with our standard loan programs, and I'd like to talk about those for a few minutes here. So if you already had a 7A loan, a 504 loan, or a micro loan, you had that prior to March 27th and you were making payments, then you know that the SBA, starting on March 27th or shortly thereafter, took over making payments for you and are making 6 months worth of payments on that current loan for you. Now, if you obtained one of those loans after March 27th, or you're in the process of closing on one of those loans, and you're going to be doing that prior to September 27th, then the SBA is also going to make the first 6 months of payments for you under those same loan programs if that is a new loan for you. And again, as long as that loan has been closed and dispersed by September 27th. So in the next couple of slides, I'll go through what those programs are in case you're not familiar with them. We have another loan program called the SBA Express Loan Program. It falls under the umbrella of our 7A loan program, but traditionally that program funds a little bit faster, and it had a maximum loan amount of up to $350,000. We have raised that maximum loan amount of up to $1 million through the end of this year, so through December 31st. Additionally, under that SBA Express Loan Program, the upfront guarantee fee has been permanently waived for veterans. So I'm going to talk about these loan programs a little more and define them for you. Our 7A loan program is really our primary loan program. It's very flexible with the use of the proceeds. It has no minimum loan amount, and the maximum loan amount is $5 million. Use of proceeds from this loan can be for owner-occupied real estate, for some smaller construction projects, for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, for inventory, working capital, business acquisition. So lots of different uses for the 7A loan program. The repayment terms, it's going to depend on the use of funds. So if you're using the proceeds from a 7A loan for working capital or machinery, equipment, that would be a 5 to 10 year repayment period. If you're using it for some real estate or construction projects, that could be up to 25 years for repayment. The 504 loan program is really meant to be a longer-term program for fixed assets. So it's to be used for things like large pieces of machinery, for larger real estate projects and things like that. This loan program does have a loan amount of up to $5 million and possibly up to $5.5 million for specific situations for manufacturers and for energy savings projects. Now, the financing on a 504 loan has a couple different pieces to it. So with the 7A loan, you're going to go to your lender that participates in SBA loan programs. With the 504 loan program, there's a CDC involved, a Community Development Corporation, and they are going to finance up to 40% of the 504 loan. Then a participating lender, which would be the bank or the credit union, would finance up to 50% of this loan. And then as the borrower, you would need to have somewhere between 10 and 20% equity into this loan program. And that's just going to depend, again, on the type of loan it is, what the assets are being used for, and that's what will help determine your level of equity into the loan. So the maturity terms on a 504 loan would be either 10, 20, or 25 years, depending on the use of funds. So the microloan program, this is a great program for startup businesses because it does allow for startup capital. Additionally, it's also a pretty flexible loan where it will allow for purchasing some equipment, some fixtures, working capital, inventory, leasehold improvements. So again, a very flexible loan program. It does have a maximum loan amount of up to $50,000. It has a repayment term of up to 6 years. And this program includes technical assistance, which is basically business consulting. So whichever micro lender you would be using for this loan, they're going to provide a certain number of hours of business consulting for you, which is really a nice perk of this program. So unlike the PPP program, these programs that I just referenced do have personal guarantees that are required. The lender will also look for collateral, so they're going to try and collateralize this loan as best they can. Now, if a lack of collateral would be the only reason for this loan to be declined, the SBA will not decline a loan simply for a lack of collateral, but again, they are going to look to collateralize this loan or these loan programs in some way. So if you're looking for a list of lenders in the state of Wisconsin, you can go to our Small Business Resource Guide, which is found on our website, which is sba.gov/WI. That resource guide has a lot of good information about all different areas of your business. So it talks a little bit about other resources available to you in the state of Wisconsin. It does cover some government contracting, exporting, but it also provides you with a comprehensive list of lenders in the state of Wisconsin that participate with our loan programs. Additionally, there's a tool available on the SBA website at sba.gov. It's called the Lender Match tool, and it's kind of like a Match.com for business owners and lenders. So if you go to that site and click on that tool, you'll answer a few questions about your business, about the type of loan that you're looking for, and within a couple of days you would be contacted by any lenders who would like to learn more about the type of loan that you're looking for and potentially make that loan for you. There's one other program I'd like to make you aware of. It is coming to a close by the end of the month, but it is available until the 27th of September, and it's called our CARL loan. It's the Community Advantage Recovery Loan. And it provides small businesses with financing combined with technical assistance. So again, that technical assistance is business consulting. So a perk of this loan program as well is that you will have a business consultant available to you through your lender to help with really many different aspects of your business. This loan program is for small businesses that are in underserved markets. Now, underserved markets could mean a variety of things. It could mean that your business is in a rural area or a hub zone or an opportunity zone, or it's located in an income community that is considered to be low to moderate. It could also include veteran-owned businesses or startup businesses, and those startup businesses would have to be in business less than 2 years. The funding for the CARL loan can be used to change up a business model or maybe the way you deliver services to accommodate our new environment with the pandemic. So if you own a physical location and maybe you need to renovate that to allow for more social distancing, those funds could be used for that. Or maybe, again, you need to update your website because maybe you're doing more online as far as sales goes. These funds could be used for that as well. Now, this program, like several of the others I talked about, the SBA will cover the first 6 months of principal, interest, and fees, so your first 6 months of payments, as long as this loan is approved by September 27th and then fully dispersed by October 1st. And we do have 2 lenders in the state of Wisconsin who are working with this loan program. We have WIBIC, Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation, and we have MEDC, which is Milwaukee Economic Development Corporation. So we have talked a lot about different financial programs available to you, but we also have a number of resource partners who are available to help you in all areas of your business. So we have our SBDC network. They're located within the University of Wisconsin system, and they have 13 offices statewide. They're available to help you with different areas of your business as a mentor. So there's no cost to work with them one-on-one, and they can help mentor you for different issues you're having, different questions you have. They're also available to help you kind of navigate all the different financial opportunities available to you. So they can help you determine what would be best for your business when it comes to these different SBA loans and other financial opportunities. We also have our women's business centers in Wisconsin. We have WIBIC again, and they are located with offices and representatives pretty much across the state. And then we have Western Wisconsin Women's Business Center located in Independence and Eau Claire. And you do not need to be a woman-owned business in order to utilize their services. So they're there to help, again, in many different areas of your business. It might be financial. It could be educational opportunities. So both of these women's business centers are doing a lot of webinars right now that cover all different topics in business. And they're there to help you in those areas. So I would suggest going to their website, kind of checking out what they have for webinars and workshops, and hopefully soon they'll be able to bring those to you in person. Right now, I believe they're still virtual. And then we have our network of SCORE mentors. SCORE mentors have expertise in different areas or specific areas of your business. So one SCORE mentor might be very strong with social media marketing. One might be very strong in target markets and revamping your marketing plan. Another might be strong with accounting or bookkeeping. So if you've got a specific area of your business and you'd like some one-to-one mentoring, a SCORE mentor would be a great place to go. Again, no cost for their one-to-one mentoring. They are also offering webinars throughout the fall. So I would suggest also checking in with them to see what they have available for webinars. I do know some locations are starting to talk about in-person mentoring. Right now they are all virtual, but they are starting to look at some in-person options as well as we move through this month. And then we have our Veterans Business Outreach Center, which is the VBOC. And the VBOC is available to business owners who are military connected. So if you are a veteran, if you're a active military, if you're a military spouse, or maybe your parent was or is a veteran, you're eligible for their services, and they're responsible for knowing the different resources available to business owners within the military community. So some of those resources are federal or national in scope, some are statewide or regional, maybe local, and your VBOC representative will know what's available to you, and they're also there to help keep you updated on new resources that become available to you. I'd also like to encourage you to keep connected to us at the Wisconsin District Office of the SBA, and we have newsletters that come out when there are new webinars coming out, when we have changes to these programs that I've talked about. They also bring you changes or updates to our government contracting programs, exporting programs. So it's a great source of information as far as what's going on with SBA programs within the state of Wisconsin. So you can go to our website at sba.gov/WI and get signed up for our e-newsletter. You can also go to sba.gov/updates, especially if you're not from the Wisconsin area, and you can put in your email address and your zip code to get connected to that SBA district office in your state. You can also stay connected to us through Twitter, and then the SBA has Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn pages as well. Now, if you get done with this webinar and a question comes up afterwards or down the road, feel free to reach back out to us through email at wisconsin@sba.gov. We will get your questions handed over to our team member that can best help you. But at this point, I would be happy to answer any questions that have come in through the chat box.
Right now, we do not have any questions in the chat box.
Okay. Would anyone like to raise their hand and unmute their microphone and ask a question verbally? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so again, if you think of something later, just send us an email at wisconsin@sba.gov, and we can certainly help you with that question. In addition, I do just want to mention that we have a webinar tomorrow, and then the last Thursday of this month, and it's with the IRS and the Department of Labor, and they will be covering for employers the tax credits, so IRS tax credits that have come about with the CARES Act, as well as different changes to the Leave Acts, again in conjunction with the CARES Act. Did we have a question come up?
Yeah, we had one. They asked if it was possible to get a copy of the presentation, and I'll send everyone an email with a copy of the PowerPoint that was used today.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Nicole. Any other questions that we can answer for you? Okay, well with that, I'm going to wish you a happy rest of your day, and again, just know that we're here and available to help you. Thank you, have a great day.